Imagine you're a business owner or you work at a corporation and your data analyst that you work with, they kept throwing numbers at you, different spreadsheets from everywhere. How are you supposed to make sense of that? How are you supposed to take actionable decision with all this data? Where do you even start from? All those issues, creating a dashboard is a solution to it. A dashboard gives you visibility into your performance, how your business is performing. You can see how you're performing by state. You can be able to see how you're performing by your sales rep. Who is doing better? Are they meeting their goals? Are you hitting targets based on what you've set? This dashboard, even as a data analyst, sometimes they ask you to pull a report. You can be proactive by giving them a dashboard. This will help them to take actionable decision to drive more revenue. The essence of having a business is to drive more revenue and to increase sales. And in today's video, we're going to be creating a dashboard using Excel. With Excel, you can create dashboard. You can even make it more interactive by giving the user filters. They can filter by state. They can filter by sales rep. I welcome you to my channel. Today's video, we're going to be creating an interactive dashboard using Excel, Microsoft Excel. Stay tuned.
Okay, so let's get started. So this is the data that we'll be using. This is all sales data. It has the information about the customer that made the purchase, the states that they live in, the dates, the amount, how much of the product that they bought, how they made the payment, the sales representative that was in charge of the sale, how much it cost us to produce the thing that they bought, in this case the shirt, and what is the target for the salesperson. So all the salesperson for this file, they all have the same target, which is $250,000. So let's start by formatting all our data. So let's start off with the purchase amount. We know that this is a dollar amount. I'm going to put my cursor and then I'll go here and select dollar. Now this is formatted fine. And let's do the same thing for the cost of goods sold. We know that this is also dollar. I'm going to click that. And we also know that for target, it's also dollar. Okay, so now before we can create a pivot table, we need to make sure that our data is formatted correctly, meaning that it has to be in a table. So right now it's not in a table. And to create a table, just click anywhere in your data and do Ctrl+T. And that's the shortcut. You can now click OK. So now this has been formatted for us in a table format. I'm going to reduce this a little bit. We're ready to start creating our pivot table. So here I'll go to Insert. I'll go to Pivot Table. And you already see that I already have a table here, table 2. I'll click OK. So now we can start creating our pivot tables. So let's first create a pivot table that shows all the sales that we've made by the product. So I'm going to go here and look for the product name. I see product name. See, we can see all our products here. These are all of our products. And I'm going to bring the purchase amount here. So I'll put it here in the value section. Why? Because we want this to sum it up for us. So we can see now here, but we don't want it to show us the value. We want it to show us like a percentage. We want to know how much of our sale was generated by selling the hats or pants or shirts. So to do that, we have to go here, click this down arrow and go to value field settings and go to show value as. I'm going to bring this down. Go to show value as, and here it says no calculation. For us, we want it to show the percentage of the grand total, so this one. So if I click OK, we can see now that the most of our sale is coming from shirts. So now there's a rule of thumb for you to rename your pivot table, to give them a name so that you can remember. So I'm going to, right now, you see if you click in your pivot table, it shows pivot table 1. Give it a name so that we can remember. So I'm going to say sales by product and click enter. So now if I click out and if I come back here, it's sales by product. So now for us to create another pivot table, we're going to do the sales by the state. So I'm just going to copy this pivot table. I'm going to Ctrl C. I'm going to Ctrl V here. So now we want to see the sales by the different states. So I'm going to remove the product name because now I want to see it by state. So I'm going to come here and drag in my state here in the row section. Now we can see all the percentages, but we don't want a percentage in this case. We want to see the actual sales amount. So we're going to go back to this down arrow and we're going to go to value field settings, and we're going to say show value as. We want it to be no calculation so that we can see the actual sale value. So we can see that in Alabama, for example, we made a sale of $5,111. So right now this is not showing us dollar, so I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to go here and click on dollar, and I'm going to do that for the grand total as well. So we can see now that this is formatted correctly. So I'm going to go here where it says pivot table analyze. Let's give this a name. So this is sales by states. So now we need to know the profits that we generated from all the sales. So to do that, we don't currently, let's go back to the sales data. Right here, we currently do not know how much profits we made from all the sales. So how do we do that? We know that we see that this is the amount that somebody paid for the sale, and we have the cost of goods sold here. At your workplace, sometimes they will say COGS. It's the same thing as cost of goods sold. This just means that this shirt that this person purchased on this date cost us $623. So for us to know our profit, then we just need to subtract this cost from the amount that we are actually charging the customer, and then we can get our profit. So to create a new column, I'm going to put my cursor here. I'm going to right click and I'll say insert. Now I can write my formula. My formula will be, let me scroll here. My formula will be the purchase amount. So I'm just going to put equals, and then I'll click on the purchase amount minus the cost of goods sold, this guy, and I'll click enter. So we can see that this is our profit. So let's rename this. I'm going to double click and I'm going to say profit, enter. So we can see that this is our profit here. If I go back to our pivot tables, right here, if you search here, there's no profit. That's because we just added that column. So we need to refresh all. So to refresh all so that we can see all the new fields here, you're going to go to data up here and you're going to click refresh all. Okay, it's done. So now we can see profit. So we can see all the profits that we've made. I'm also going to copy this pivot table now. I'm going to paste it here, Ctrl V. And now we don't want it by product name. We actually want to see it by the sales rep. So we want to see it by the sales rep. I'm also going to remove the purchase amount. So I'm going to look for the sales rep, sales representative. I'll drag it here. So we can see all our sales rep here. Now, what else do we want to see? We want to see what is the amount that they've sold, which is the purchase amount. So I'm going to drag that here. We can see that this person, Amalita, she has sold this much. What is the target? Because they sold this, but are they actually meeting the target? We need to answer that question. So I'm going to go here and look for the target. This is the target. I'm going to drag it here. Okay, so as you can see here, when I just drag the target, Excel is automatically doing a sum. I don't want to do a sum because if we go back to our data, we will see here that they all have the same target, which is $250,000. So I'll go back to here. We don't want this to do a sum. We want it to just do the max, meaning just give me one. don't sum it. So to change it, we always go to this down arrow, we go to value, and here we click max. In this case, you can also do min. It's going to give us the same answer because they all have the same value. So I'll click OK. Now we can see that we see $250,000, and that's correct. So let's format this correctly. I'm going to highlight this. I'll go to home, and then I'll click this dollar. So now this is formatted correctly. This just means that for Chrysler, the target is 250,000, only sold 92,000. So this person has met the target. German, the target is 250, but they've sold 268. That is very good. We're happy. So let's rename this again. Click anywhere in the pivot table, go to pivot table, analyze, and let's give this a name. Sales by sales rep. Enter. So this is the name now. Okay, and now we want to do the sales by date. So I'm going to copy this. Always put some space between your pivot tables, because if you don't put space and you load more data, it's going to give you an error. So just leave some space. You can also put them in different sheets. So I'm just going to paste this here, and I'm going to remove all of this. The next thing that we want to do is to do a pivot table that will show us the sales that we've made by the day. Like, okay, let's start with daily sales. So I'm going to go here. This is the purchase date. I'm going to drag it here. Now I'm going to look for the amount. So I'll go here, purchase amount, I'll drag it here. So we can see that in January we made this much sale. If you expand this, you can see it by each day. Okay, for us, we don't, if you look up here, if you look here, it shows us by month. The next one is showing us by the date, and next one is showing us by the purchase date. For this pivot table, so that we can do that area chart, we want to see the actual date. So I'm going to remove the top two. So I will remove the month, and I'll remove this. So we can see on the 1st of January, we made this much. On the 3rd, we made this much. So let's rename this again. I'll go to pivot table, analyze. Remember to click anywhere in the pivot table, and let's rename this to sales by date, and click enter. So now we want to do the sales by month. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to put it right here. Let's put it down here. And now I want to remove the dates. So now let's do a sales that will show us by month. So let's go here and look for the purchase date right here. I'm going to drag it here. We can see that anytime you drag a date, Excel will give you the different layers to the dates, like the month, the date and stuff. For this one, we want the month. So I'm going to remove the last two. We don't want the date, we don't want the date. So this will just show us monthly sales. Now we're still in September, so we've made 96,000 so far. Let's also see our profit. So we want to see how much we're making, but we also want to see our profit. So profit, I'm going to go here. I can see profit, I'll drag it here, and then I can see now that in January we made this much, profit. Okay, now let's rename this. I'll go to pivot table, analyze. I'll rename this to sales by month. Okay, so now we're ready to create our pivot chart. To do that, let's start off with this one. So we go here where it says insert, and here we see recommended charts. You can also get to them here. So I'll click recommended charts, and then we'll go to pie charts. For us, we're going to use the donut chart. I'll click OK. Okay, now one thing that we want to do is to get rid of all this here. So I'll right click and say hide all field buttons, so we don't have all those buttons. Next, let's go to design, and let's click here. We can select any of this design right here. So I'll choose the style 8, and then next let's put this up here so that we can see all the legends at the top. So I'm going to click this and go here where it says legend. I'll select the top. Next, I'm going to go here where it says quick layout. I want to see the layout 2. So you can choose any layout that you want. Layout 2. Now we're going to give it a title. So the title, I'm going to call it Sales by Product. Okay, so next thing, right now this one seems fine. You can resize it as you want. I'm going to cut this, Ctrl X, and I'll put it on a different page for now. Okay, so the next one is, now that we are done with this, let's go to our salespeople and we'll just work our way there. So the next one is this one. We're going to go to insert. We're going to go to recommended chats, and this one we want to do a combo. So right now a combo chat is when you want to show like a column and then you want to show like a line. So I'll click combo, and now we can see that automatically Excel is doing this for me. You can change this. So right now it's doing the target as the line, so you can change it and say, oh, I want it to be a column, and now they're both shown as a column. But for us, we're going to go back to the line so that we can have the line, and then I'll click I want this to be a secondary axis so that I can see the axis as well. I'll say okay. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say hide all field buttons. Okay, so now we can see that only German is meeting the target. We can change the color by clicking this right here, and we want, instead of the color to be this, we can say okay, we want the color to be green. Now the color is green. Also, we want it to show the dots. So here we can go here where it says marker, and we say marker options. Right now it's set to none. We want it to be this, and we want it to be a circle. So you can choose any one here that you want. So we're just going to use a circle, and you can reduce the size if it's too big. Okay, so we can resize this. Let's take out the grid line. So to do that, we click this plus button, and we don't want the grid line. Also, we want the legend to be at the top, so we click the top. We also want the chart to have a title, so we click the title, and we are almost done. So we can see now that Amalita, she's still somewhere here and she's trying to go here. So let's give this chart a title. So I'm going to double click, and then this will be sales rep performance. So this is their performance. Okay, so let's copy this. Also, before we copy this, right now we can tell that this is the person that is meeting target, but sometimes they might want you to sort your chart. So they might want you, I'm going to close this here so that we can close this. I'm going to put this to the right. Right now we want this to be sorted based on their performance. So we can see that Germany is the person that is performing the most. So we can come here. So we want it to sort based on the purchase amount. So we right click and we go to sort, and we can say from largest to smallest, and pay attention to what happens here. We can see that this is sorted. Now we can see that the Mike is the one that is performing the least. So I'm going to do Ctrl X so that we can move this to another page. Okay, so now let's go back here. So that's our pivot table, pivot chart for the salespeople. So now the next one that we're going to do is this. Let's do a pivot chart that can show us the daily sales that we have. And I'm going to go here where it says insert. recommended chart. For this one, we want to do an area chart. And sometimes in an interview, they can ask you, okay, how do you decide the kind of chart that you use? It just depends on the story that you're trying to tell. For this one, it makes sense to use an area chart because that will help you to see the different, how you rise, how the sales is going up, how the sales is coming down. So I'm going to click this and we can see now, we can see that here we have a peak on this day right here. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to make this bigger a little bit, and we can right click here and say hide all the buttons, and we don't want this. I'm just going to delete it. And now we want to give this a title, so the title will just be daily sales. Okay, so I'm going to also remove the grid line. I'll remove the grid line. Okay, so let's cut this and put it here. Okay, let's go back. So we're going to do this one last, because this one we have to use a map. So the last one before we do the map is going to be this one right here that just shows us the monthly sales and the profit. So let's do the same thing and go to insert. Let's go to recommended chart, and for this one we want to also do a combo chart so that we can see the different measures. So right now it's doing the purchase amount as a clustered column, which is fine, and the profit as the line. So that means that all this profit is is showing the line here. The line is showing the profit. So for this one we can click a secondary axis so that we can see it here. I'll click OK. So I'll make this bigger. Okay, we can see the January, the most sale happened between July and March. So I'll right click here and I say hide all field buttons. We also want to remove the grid line, so I'll click this plus. Also, we want the legend to be at the top right here. Okay, so now we can cut this, Ctrl X, and let's put it here, somewhere here. Okay, let's go back to our pivot table. And now the last one is this one right here. This one we have to use a map. So if we go here to insert, we go to map, this is going to give us an error. Let's try it out. We get an error. You can't create this chart type. Okay, let's just close it out. A way around this is to copy your data, copy it, Ctrl C, and just come here. We just paste it here for now. So it's the same thing, it's just that now it's data from here instead of the pivot table. So let's now go back to map here and let's click it. Now we have the map. Now there's no error. Okay, I'm going to shrink this a little bit. We don't want to keep this here because if our data changes, this value here will not update, but the pivot table will update. So how do we fix this? Make sure you click the map and go here where it says select data. Right now it's using this. We want it to use the pivot table. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to delete all of this and I'll click this arrow. We just need to highlight all the values from our pivot table instead of the one that we copy pasted. So make sure you highlight all of them. Let go. Click this again, this down arrow, and just click OK. So now we can see that this is highlighted. This is now using the pivot table instead of this value. Okay. So now that we have the chart, we're just going to delete this right here. Okay, and we still have the chart. So what we have to do now is to rename this. So double click and give it a name. So we're going to say nationwide sale. Nationwide sales. Okay. Now let's make sure, so let's format this, the legend, we want it to be at the top. So we have room here. Okay, I'm going to Ctrl X and I'm going to paste it here. Now that we have all our charts here, the next thing for us to do is to create a new sheets right here for our dashboard. So I'm just going to click on plus and let's rename this to dashboard. Okay, so now we need to go to view and we need to remove this grid line. Grid line are all these lines here, so we don't want that on the dashboard. Okay, next thing is the stop one right here. We want it to have a different color, just like the header. So I'll go home, highlight it and go home. I'll go here and I'm going to pick this color right here, and just here I'm going to grab all this and I'm going to do merge and center. That way I can combine them, and I'm going to start typing in here. I'm going to type sales dashboard, and I'm going to give it a white color. Okay, and let's increase the size, so we can choose the size, and we also want it to be bold. Okay, and now we want this to be a different font. So the font is this one, Amasis, so that font. And then now we want to, it's a rule of thumb to have data as of here. What is data as of? Data as of is to show your user that this report that you're looking at is as of this date. So I'm going to put my cursor and I'm going to click here. Let's start typing the formula. So I'm going to do equals and I'll do quote data as of. I'll put quote. Make sure you put space before you do the quote, and let's do the space after quote. So for this, we're going to do an ampersand. Ampersand is just to combine, bring together. Space. We're going to use this formula called text. Text usually just converts. It converts one thing to another thing. So in our case, what is the value? We want the value to be today's date. Today's date is going to be, you just type today, and just click tab and close the parentheses, and let's do comma. Today's date, we want it to just be date, so it will be month slash day slash year. So we're going to close this, put a quote, and then we're going to close this. Okay, so now we can see data as of today's date. So this color, let's give it a like a yellow color. So I'm going to go here and we can just put this yellow, and we can make this bold as well so that people can see it. Okay, now we need to bring in our logo. Anytime you work at a place, they always have a logo for any business. So let's bring in the logo. We're going to go to insert, and we're going to go to pictures, and you want to say from this device, or if you are bringing an online picture, for me I'll click from this device, and then I'm going to go to my where I have that, and I'll bring in the logo, say insert, and then I can put my logo here, just very close to this, like that. Okay, so the next thing is to bring in all the chats that we already have. So we already have those chats here. I'm going to rename this as chats. Okay, so let's bring them in one by one. So let's bring in this one, Control X, and let's go to our dashboard and Control V. So we can put it here. Let's make this bigger. Okay, we see all this border right here. We don't want to see the border, so I'm going to click on it. I'll right click and I'll go to format area. And here we can see border, it says automatic. We don't want any line, so you click no line. And then now we don't see the line. Okay, let's close this and let's bring in the rest. So now let's go back to our chart, and now we need to bring in this one right here, Control X, and let's go to our dashboard, Control V, and we see it here. Okay, we didn't give this a title, so we're going to go to this plus and let's say chat title, and then double click this. And now we're going to give it monthly sales with profit. Monthly sales with profit. Okay, and for our titles, let's make them bold. So I'm going to click bold here. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click and we'll say format chart area. We don't want it to have a border, so we'll say no line. So now we don't have any line. Okay, I'm going to bring this up here so that this title can align with this one. Okay, and now we can bring in the rest. So the next one, let's bring in the sales performance for the rep. So I'm going to click this, Control X, and I'll go to dashboard and I'll paste it here. Okay, we're going to reduce this a little bit. Let's move this here. Okay, and we need to move this right here. This is not showing, so we want it to have more room here. Okay, so we can move this here, and then the sales performance for the rep, we can squeeze it here. Let's make it smaller, and now we can actually turn off this this one here. So I'm going to go here where it says access, and let's click this. We don't want it to show the secondary, so we can click this so that we can have more space. So we're going to paste this here. Okay, so now we see that we need to make this here the same color as this, so we just highlight and make this color. Okay, so let's bring in the last two charts. So I'll go to charts and I'll bring in the daily sales, Control X, and go to dashboard. I'll do Control V, so the daily sales can come down here, and thus we can actually make bigger because we have more room. We can see that we have all the spike somewhere around June 2nd, so we can make this bigger. Okay, let's remember to make this bold as well, so highlight and go here, home, and say bold. Okay, now let's bring in the map. So to bring in the map, I'll go to charts and let's bring this Control X, dashboard, and we can close this out for now, and I'll paste it here. Okay, the map we need to make bigger so that we can see some. So let's make it bigger. Okay, we want this to align, so we can bring this down. Okay, and I'm going to stretch this down so that we can align with the map. Okay, let's remember to make this bold as well, so double click and go to bold. Okay, we also want to get rid of this line for the border, so I'm going to click this. I'll go here, right click, and then go to format, and then also click no line. Click this next chart and say no line. Click this other one and say no line, so we can get rid of all the lines. I'm going to close this for now. Okay, so now we need to make this, now that we have all this here, make this the same color as this, and let's see. Okay, now we have all the charts. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is to have some kind of filter so that our user can be able to see all the filters. To bring in the filters, we're going to go here where it says click on any of those charts right here and go to insert, and we're going to go to slicers. So when you click slicer, now we can see all the fields from our sales data tab right here. We want to have a slicer for the states. We want to have a slicer for the product. We also want to have it for the salesperson. So we want all those three slicers. I'm going to click OK. So now we have the slicer. Let's just arrange them to on the left hand side. Let's start with the product. right now it's showing product name. Let's rename this. So to rename, we need to right click and go to slicer settings. And right here we see the caption is saying product name. We already know that's the name, so we can just say product. And I'll click OK. So now we have all the products. Let's shrink this a little bit so we have more room. Next one, we want to bring in the states. So we already have the states here. Let's put them here. And let's make sure we have the states, the S in states to be capital. So we're going to right click and go to slicer settings. And let's change this S. I'm going to delete this and make it capital and say OK. So now it's capital. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So we have many states, but we're going to make room for some of them. Anyone can scroll down here and see all the states. And next, we're going to do the same thing for the sales representative. I'm going to right click and go to slicer settings. And let's just say sales rep instead of sales representative. Sales rep. And let's say OK. All right. Now, we're almost done. Let's test out the slicer. If I click add, we can see that only this one changed. Nothing else changed. Let's try again. Pants. This one is the only one that is working. Why? Because we need to connect the slicer to the other pivot charts. So to do that, you click each pivot table, go to report connections, and let's make this bigger like this. You can see right now that it's only connected to sales by month, which is this one. So let's check all this. We're saying that we want you to connect, talk to all the other ones as well. If I say OK and say shirt, we can see that everything is changing now, even including the map. If I say pants, we see that the map is adjusting as well. If I say shirt, see the map is changing as well. So we can see that all of this is working. So now if we can also test out this. We can see that only this one is working, so we need to do the same thing. So I'm going to undo this. Let's go to report connection, and we're just going to click all of them. Say OK. And let's do the same thing for the sales rep as well. Report connection, we're going to click all of them. OK. OK. Now, all we have to do now is just to change our color. So if you want, you can change the color for this by just going to. So we can see that all of this is working. Before we do the rest of the slicers, let's adjust this a little bit so that we can see the whole graphs, the whole charts. So I'm going to shrink this a little bit and move it all the way to the left. Okay, I'm going to shrink this just a little bit and move it here. And I'm going to move this over here too. We're doing this so that when you share this dashboard with like somebody that you work with, they can see the whole picture when they open up the file. So let's shrink this to a little bit. So now we can see everything. And then this bottom chart too. Let's move it, and then let's shrink it down a little bit. Let's shrink it down. Okay, and then let's move this map here. I'm going to shrink this a little bit. Okay, so now that we see everything, now let's try out the slicer. If I click Alabama, we can see that only this chart is changing up here. So let's do the same thing. Click on the slicer, go up here where it says slicer, and then we need to change the report connection so that it can talk to all the other charts as well. Right now it's only talking to the sales by month chart, which is this one right here. So we just need to check all those boxes and we say OK. Okay, so with the charts, we can see here that not a lot of things are showing. I'm going to click this right here, and I'm going to just click multiple. for the chart, you need to click multiple for it to show up right here. Okay, so now I'm going to clear this and we can see everything is fine. Now for the sales rep, if we just click one, we can still use the same thing. So I'm going to click this and go to report connections, and I'm going to click all of them and say okay. So we can see now that this is adjusting based on the sales rep that I choose. I'm going to clear this. Okay, and I'm going to, the last thing that we just need to do is to make this to be full screen. So let's first hide all those bottom things here that we don't need. This one, we don't need it, so we can just delete this page. Delete. We need this page. This is all our pivot tables, so I'm going to double click this and rename this to pivot tables. This chart, we already got all the charts, so I'm going to delete this. And the sales data, I'm going to hide this tab. Let's also hide the pivot table tab. That way we only have the dashboard. And now lastly, we just need to hide this. So you click this down arrow and you say full screen mode. So now when I scroll up, we can see all of our dashboard in just one view. Okay, so for this chart, because this is the sales amount which matches all this blue, let's change this one, which is the profit. Let's give it another color. So I'm going to click on this line. I'm going to right click and say format data serials. So I'll go here to the fill option. Let's change the color to like something that pops. Instead of blue, we can use this gold right here. So this just means that this is the profit that we made. I'm going to close this out.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please like and subscribe to my channel. I will see you next time. Bye.